Good evening and happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to everybody. Happy Tuesday to everyone. Happy Tuesday, everybody. As you are coming in, I want you to do me a favor. Let me know where you're watching from. So type in the comments, the city and state you are watching from as you come in. We will begin promptly at 6 o'clock. So as you're coming in, type in the city and state that you are watching from. And then the next thing I ask that you do is that you share this video. Hey, Ashley, welcome, welcome. I ask that you share this video, tag somebody in it. We are going to learn some stuff tonight. And if you've been tuned into the Pivot Conversations, you know this conversation is totally different from what I do on Monday nights. This is more of a teaching kind of coaching type feel. Hey, Phil, how are you? Yeah, so let me know the city and state you're watching from. Share this video, invite somebody. We normally aren't on here longer than maybe 20 minutes max, but I try to teach in about 12 minutes. So I try to give out some pretty good content in 12 minutes, and then we have a segment for Q&A at the end. So again, type in the city and state that you're watching from, share this video, invite somebody to come and watch and just be helped with the teaching. So as you come in, let me know what city and state you're watching from. Then I want you to tag somebody, share the video, because tonight we are going to be talking about part 6, sharing point 6, the purpose of the pivot. Mamu, Louisiana. Welcome, Mamu, Louisiana. Did you all get affected by Hurricane Laura? Did you all get affected by Hurricane Laura? We are going to start at 6 o'clock at the top of the hour. So as you all come in, take your virtual seats in the classroom. Take your virtual seats in the classroom, and we are going to get started at 6 o'clock. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday. Here in North Texas, it's been raining today, so we are grateful for the rain. Alexandria, Virginia. All right. Welcome, Alexandria, Virginia. Welcome to the virtual classroom on tonight. And we are going to get started. All right, it's 6 o'clock, so let's go. So tonight, I want to say that get your questions ready, because we are going to do a question and answer segment at the end. But good evening, and let me say thank you to each of you who have jumped on this live with me this evening. I also want to thank those of you who are possibly watching the replay. If you're catching it on replay, just type replay in the comments. This doesn't pertain to the people who are watching it live right now. So I'm not sure if this is your first time tuning in or if you are returning for another pivot conversation. This may sound a little redundant to those of you who have been tuned in for the past 5 teachings, but for the sake of the newcomers, because I do see some new faces, I want to share that I have been teaching on the word pivot since last month, okay? A little, no major damage, outages, but everyone has water and power, praise God. So I've been teaching for the month of August on the purpose of the pivot, and we will continue that teaching throughout this month, or at least until I'm done unpacking the purpose of the pivot. So if this is not your first time tuning in, let me ask you this question. Y'all ready? Have you done your homework? I'll wait. Have you done the homework that was assigned on last week? Assigned the week before last? Have you all been doing your homework? I saw someone ask me in the comments last week if there was a reward for doing homework. Well, there is a reward, but I need proof to see that it's done, okay? So for the first time listeners, you may be wondering, what's the purpose of this and why should I listen? Well, I'm glad you're wondering. We have been hearing this word throughout the pandemic, and it's been used in reference to adapting to your current environment like working from home or changing careers or figuring out a way to be more effective, but with less. So the purpose of this teaching is to help you pivot and navigate through changes in your life. Whatever that change may be, it may be something as simple as implementing something new into your daily regimen, or something as complex as a career change or starting a new business. I see somebody didn't do their homework. Okay. Something as simple as adding an additional challenge to your workout regimen, or something as complex as navigating through a relationship change. Something as simple as being intentional about drinking more water, to something as complex as setting a financial goal and sticking to it. Change is inevitable. It will happen whether it's forced, unexpected, or whether you initiate it. I'm here as the Change Navigator, as your pivot partner, to help you work through your fears, to help you simplify what seems to be complex as it relates to change, and to help you to begin to live a life of joy and fulfillment once you begin to implement those necessary changes. I don't want you to think that I'm suggesting that all of this will be easy. I don't want you to think that I'm unaware of the mental, physical, and emotional changes that happen as it relates to change. As a matter of fact, I want to say this, and this is going to sound a little contradictory to all of the positive words that I say, because I'm typically a person who's optimistic and I look for the good in every situation, but I'm going to just be very honest with you. And I want you to understand that anything that you undertake with the intentions of being ultimately successful is going to involve failure. Okay? Anything that you undertake when the intentions of being ultimately successful is going to involve failure. So here's what you should do. You should expect to fail. Yeah, it's kind of hard, huh? Expect to fail. Not to fail the ultimate mission or your ultimate goal, but expect to fail en route to your success. All right, so, and with that knowledge that we have, we know we can't stop at failure. As a matter of fact, I would even dare to say, when you experience failure, it should reinforce to you that you are on the right path. When you experience failure, it should reinforce to you that you are on the right path. I know it's very difficult to comprehend. I know it's kind of difficult to accept that thought process, but when you encounter failure, it should reinforce to you that you are on the right path. Until you are in that moment, until you experience it, you'll understand what I'm saying. Once you get to that point, once you experience your first failure, when you're on your way to change, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I believe if you've clicked on this live, you are up for the challenge and you are trying to incorporate change in some aspect of your life. I don't believe I'm sharing this information with people who are looking for an easy way out. So with that being said, I'm inclined to believe if you are tuned in, you want to be better than you were last year. You want to be better than you were 6 months ago. You want to be better than you were a month ago, and even better than you were on yesterday. Now, back to the teaching about pivot. We have been talking about pivot. Like I mentioned earlier, the word pivot has been synonymous with this pandemic. You can hear the word pivot just all over the place. Social media, the news, in articles, everywhere you look up, you hear that word pivot. So in its simplest form, and for the purpose of what I'm discussing, according to dictionary.com, pivot means to turn on. The other definition it provided as it relates to basketball is to keep one foot in place while holding the ball and moving the other foot one step in another direction. So I remember when I was playing basketball and when I was learning how to play basketball and learning about the fundamentals of the game in middle school. That's when I first started playing, in middle school. And my coach at the time was the late Mrs. Frances Ledet. She taught us to pivot, especially when we were trapped in a corner or when we were facing a turnover. So we understand what it means to pivot according to the definition, to turn on, right? But why should we pivot? What's the purpose? And so far, I've shared 5 reasons as to why we should pivot. Tonight, I'm going to give you the 6th reason. But let's recap the previous 5 purposes of the pivot. Number 1, the purpose of the pivot is to give you extra space to think and to create. Number 2, the purpose of the pivot is to give you an alternative. Because anytime a problem presents itself, the solution is always present. Number 3, the purpose of the pivot is to see something differently. Number 4, the purpose of the pivot is to get you out of trouble. Number 5, what we talked about on last week, the purpose of the pivot is to give you a little breathing room before making a bad or impulsive decision. And tonight we are going to talk about number 6. Number 6, the purpose of the pivot is to give you a little extra time. Let me remind you guys that all of these references come from learning how to play basketball, but they can be applied to real life, particularly in reference to making changes in your life. So how many times have you heard someone say, if I had just a little more time in my day, I could get more accomplished? Now, mind you, we have 24 hours in one day, and I'm almost certain we don't use that entire 24 hours. As a matter of fact, I read an article a few years ago, and it gave this startling statistic. It said the average person only uses 10% of their potential each day. That's pretty loaded. The average person only uses 10% of their potential each day. It speaks to how we really don't maximize the time we are given in each day. Even though we say, if I had a little bit more time, I could accomplish so much more. How many of you in corporate America, when you still reported to your office, clocked in, started working immediately? Don't put your hands up. I want you to think about this. I've seen several people's daily routines look like this. They clock in, they log into their computer, they check their emails from the previous day. Then they leave their desk, go speak with the coworkers, catch up about the previous evening, what happened the night before with the families or whatever. Then they head to the break room to get coffee and donuts. Then they go back to their desk. They check their personal emails, check their social media, read articles as it relates to their own personal interests. Then they start working probably about an hour later. But we need more time in the day, right? So we think. Well, how do we apply the idea of the purpose of the pivot is to give you a little extra time? Even though there is an evident reality of us abusing the time we are given. I'm not suggesting that the thoughts are congruent or that they are parallel and constitute a worthy comparison. I'm suggesting when you pivot, you have what you didn't have prior to the pivot, and that is a little extra time. In that extra time, you can make a decision that will hopefully benefit the path you are on or benefit the plan that you have in your head. So I realized after I was laid off, which was a forced pivot, I had more time to focus on what mattered to me most. If we are honest, it's hard to work a regular job and then put the amount of thought energy and physical energy into creating your personal business or your personal brand or even an extra stream of income. I became aware that this pivot was to give me extra time to think, to strategize, to create, to experiment, and to focus on the plan that's in my head, to focus on the vision for my life. That I probably could not have tapped into this had I continued working 40 plus hours a week for someone else. So here's the reality. The pivot gave me extra time, but it also challenged me to be a better time manager. I learned and I am learning through this pivot to manage the gifts that we are given, like the gift of time. Do you know how easy it is to get distracted? how easy it is to mismanage an hour or two throughout the day? Do you know how easy it is to give into excuses that you present yourself with? And they sound logical and they sound okay. Do you know how easy it is to be inconsistent when you have no one managing you, no one to report to? Do you know how easy that is? It requires a certain level of discipline to manage the extra time you are given, especially after you've come out of a tight spot. Because the initial response is, you know what? I just need a break. I just need to take a break. Believe me, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a break after you've come out of a tight spot, after you've come out of being of a place of being under pressure. But even after a break, it is understood that your level of work should be more in comparison to your break, meaning your output should be increased after your break. So once you discover the extra time, your output should increase. That may be challenging, but it is achievable. I want to introduce to you guys the concept of the action trigger. I read about this concept in this book that I read called Switch, How to Change When Change is Hard. And it talked about an action trigger. So let's say your goal is to go to the gym and work out. Let's say that's your goal. Go to the gym and work out. When you make a decision to execute a certain action, which is working out, when you encounter a certain situational trigger, which is tomorrow morning, it would look like this. And I'm using myself for an example. Tomorrow morning, after I drop Amber off to school, I will go to the gym to work out. Therefore, my clothes should be prepared the night before, and I should be dressed to go to the gym in the morning. Action triggers. Action triggers simply have to be specific enough and visible enough to interrupt your stream of consciousness. Okay? So the value of an action trigger is this. It's the fact that it's a preloading decision. Therefore, they protect your goals, whatever your goals are, they protect your goals from tempting distractions, bad habits, or competing goals. So an action trigger, again, it has to be specific and visible. And it's a preloading decision. So I know tomorrow morning, if my goal is to go to the gym and work out, then tomorrow morning after I drop Amber off to school, I will go work out. It sounds really simple, right? So it's actually simple when you put it into practice, when you become very specific about that thing that you want to change in your life. All right, that is it for the teaching on tonight. So again, I am here as your pivot partner to help you navigate through your changes. But guess what? We have homework again. That's right. We have homework again. So number one, I want you to use a day to identify what you do during your downtime, during your leisure. I want you to pay attention and write it in your journal, or even use your phone as a little note. All right? I want you to pay attention and use your phone, use it and write it in your journal. Use a day, a whole day. I want you to identify what you do during your downtime, during your leisure time. All right? Then number two. Thank you, Rodney. Number two, I want you to identify areas in your life, parentheses, certain times of the day, where you know you can have some extra time. For instance, maybe you wake up and you pick up your phone and you go straight to social media. That could be some extra time in your day, right? Yeah. Okay. So identify certain areas in your life, certain times of the day where you know you could have some extra time. Number three. Next, I want you to identify an activity that you can do in the space of that extra time. Make sure that activity is congruent with your mission are congruent with the change you are trying to implement into your life. All right. So I want you to identify an activity that you can do in the space, in that extra time. All right. And then number four is going to be your action trigger. I want you to commit to doing that thing, whatever that thing is, whatever you identified in number 3, commit to doing that thing at the same time each day for the next 5 days. So you got 1 day to spend identifying what you're going to, what you do during your leisure. You got another day to identify areas in your life where you have extra time. So the next day, you're going to identify an activity you can do in that space, and you're going to commit to doing it same time every day. Action trigger for the next 5 days. Can you all try that for me? Give me some thumbs up if you're willing to try it. Thumbs up. Say, yes, I'm willing to try it. Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. Too much. Not enough. I'm waiting for the responses. And while I wait, I want to know, do you guys have any questions for me? Do you guys have any questions for me? As I'm wrapping this up, I told you I don't want to keep you longer than 20 minutes. And I taught, I think, for 15 minutes. So do you guys have any questions for me tonight? Questions, comments? You don't know if you can commit to that, Mary? Okay, it's all right. Just go back and watch the video and listen to it again. All right, Ashley, thank you. Katina, you're late. Okay, you're going to have to go back and catch the replay so you can hear the challenge that I've given to everyone. All right, Crystal, thank you. You can commit to doing that. All right, awesome. No questions or comments? Well, if there are no questions, if you have any questions that you want me to address one-on-one, that you don't want to put in the comments, feel free to email me at thechangenavigator@gmail.com. And if you have not already, I ask that you go and follow the page. I've created a page for the Change Navigator because I want to eventually transition to doing these videos from that page. All right. I want to eventually transition from my personal page to doing the videos from that page. And I will be posting more content on that page because I want you to stay connected. And if you have not, you can follow me on IG at _change_navigator. I hope that you all learned something tonight from this pivot conversation. And I look forward to another conversation with you guys on Thursday evening at the same time at 6 o'clock p.m. Thanks.